Okay, Mark meets Wayne Deakin, the Executive Creative Director at Jam. Hi Wayne.
Hello Mark.
Can you give us a very quick summary of your career to date?
I'm a little bit of a travelling Wilbury. Originally Australian. I started in the usual sort of suspects like Saatchi's and Leo Burnett's and traditional ad agencies in Australia. Then somehow I ended up in Singapore, did a bit there for usual suspects for about a year. Then Singapore didn't really suit. So then I went to San Francisco, worked for an agency called Conan Wells, where we launched MSN and things. That was really cool because it was like a mad sort of thing called digital starting to come on the scene, and there was a lot of like the whole Silicon Valley, San Francisco mad people.
What year was this roughly?
90, Jesus.
Late 90s.
Late 90s, yeah. Then came over here, worked for a couple agencies over here, then went back for a couple of years, and then went back to Australia to work on the Olympics, which was a gig I couldn't turn down, for George Patterson Bates, Y&R, whatever they're called now, for 2 years. Then came back over here, and then ended up in Europe working for Jung von Matt, which is a sort of big German agency. Worked across a number of their accounts, but particularly Mercedes and Smart, which was cool. Loved it there. And then got headhunted to come to Jam, sort of just under 2 years ago.
And when you joined Jam, they were how many people?
About 30, 40 people. And it was sort of, I was the only creative person to join, and my remit was like, can you help build a bigger creative department and a creative presence? Which was a bit weird because I come from a really big creative agency to an agency that didn't really have a traditional creative department as such.
And how many people today?
110.
And how many in your creative department?
We have sort of like 10 full-timers and then quite a lot of freelancers, and then sort of designers, about 6 or so designers, and about 4 or 5 developers. But what I've tried to do is have a thing called the Jam Lab, where we like mesh, which is a bit of a mashup of people all together. So you might have a designer and a developer working on a creative. So it's a bit off-piste and a bit sort of different, I suppose.
What's been the biggest highlight in your career so far? What's the thing you're most proud of?
I liked the thing I'm most proud of. I don't know. I suppose I've enjoyed helping Jam grow. That's been really good, and getting shortlisted as Digital Agency of the Year for campaign and marketing. That's been good because doing that in a year against guys like AKQA and LBI and Lean Mean and Work Club has been good. That's been good. Work-wise, I think I enjoyed helping to launch the JD Set, which was like a music platform for Jack Daniels, which is now rolled out 52 or whatever different regions around the world. Because Jack Daniels wasn't like a sort of, it was losing its appeal to 18 to 25 year olds, and Jack Daniels is all about storytelling. Storytelling nowadays for the youth is through music, so it was creating that was really nice as an online sort of platform. And one of the other nice things was Liquid Pixels, I think recently, which we did a collaboration with some really talented guys, and we sort of basically hacked a phone and to show the Galaxy Note's ability to be able to, be creative. Hacked a phone and you could draw on the phone with a stylus, and it would draw on water. And that sort of picked up. Sort of a lot of press, and also got listed in the Creative Review, which annual. So that was good.
What's been one of the funniest stories that you can tell us, either from a pitch or from talking at an event or somewhere else?
Funniest stories.
I've known you for a long time, and I know there are definitely some embarrassing stories and funny stories.
I have been trying to pitch an idea at Cannes a couple of years ago, and I fell off a balcony because I was
That's the kind of stuff.
one too many. Today.
I'm guessing the balcony wasn't particularly high.
No, it was 2 stories, yeah, but it was a bit sunny and a few drinks.
So you were halfway through this pitch and fell off the balcony?
Yeah. Another one was doing a whole presentation to 11 big serious guys in suits, and then realising I was using the name of their competitor because I had worked on their competitor's business about 3 months previous.
Okay, that went down well.
Joining the agency, that was pretty full on.
I'm guessing you didn't get that piece of business.
No, I didn't get that piece of business. Yeah, and there's plenty of other embarrassing stories that I probably wouldn't want to say on camera.
What's the best bit of career advice you would give people looking to get into the industry today?
I think follow your heart. Follow things that you are interested in, and if you truly pursue your interests in whatever creative medium you think, then you'll get a good gig. I think trying to force yourself into a role or trying to fit into a traditional creative role when maybe you're slightly different than that, don't go against that flow, because I don't necessarily hire lots of traditional creatives. I hire people that come from all sorts of backgrounds, and I find some of the most interesting people I've worked with in traditional ad agencies or at Jam have been people who come from diverse backgrounds but have sort of followed the passion and somehow ended up in that industry. The other thing I'd say is craft. I think craft is massively important. I think in the digital age, it's so easy to be instantaneously sort of online or sort of up there and forget about the quality of work. I think the one thing that always attracted me to this industry was the level of craftsmanship. And I think you go back to the CDP days and you go back to some of the great Campaign Palace in Australia and places like that. The craft's always been there, and I think great craftspeople produce great work.
Do you think the craft is not as strong these days as it was 15, 20 years ago?
I think it's just different. I think it's getting better. I think there's sometimes a rush to get to the idea and forgetting about the delivery and how it looks and how it's sort of how craft can aid the idea. I'm a writer, and I think I still look at art direction, I still look at craft and design. I think these are tools that any creative professional really needs to take on board and use as just another arsenal in your kit, basically.
I mean, I've been around almost 10 years or so recruiting in this industry, and I've seen in that period of time the quality of craft and creative decrease. I've seen copywriters with spelling mistakes on their CVs and not proofreading their stuff, and obviously not getting the opportunity to interview because they've already kind of faltered at the first hurdle.
Yeah.
So how have you seen the quality of craft?
I have. I mean, I started out as a writer, and I won my first sort of line writing a radio commercial, and now I'm a supposedly digital guy, But I think the craft that you get from, whether it's writing or whether it's art direction or design or any sort of creative professional, photography or whatever, I think it's really important to understand the basics. And once you know the rules, you can break the rules. I think that's really important. So someone sending out something that's like spelt wrong or like is just it's ridiculous. So don't waste your time.
Since you've been in the position of creative leadership over the years at many agencies, what's the most creative way someone has tried to grab your attention to to come in for an interview?
Most creative way. I had a guy send me a 30-minute film that he shot, so that was pretty impressive.
And did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. I mean, basically, it wasn't the best film in the world, wouldn't win an Oscar, but he had basically mapped out his life story through a narrative in film, and I don't suggest everybody does that, but I ended up employing him, but I thought it was just a really different, interesting way of getting my attention. I think one of the other things is, I think if your work's good, the work will speak for you. You don't necessarily have to go down the road of having a gimmick like that guy did. I think it's making sure your work is polished and good.
Okay, that's a nice bit of advice. What's the best thing about agency life for you?
The best bit about agency life, I like the fact that every day is a challenge. I like the fact that we get paid to do a job. You know, we're not out digging holes in the road, and we're not we're fortunate to be able to be in a position to sort of have an idea and then see that idea get born and developed and grow, so that, and set it free in a way. So, you know, we're lucky we live in a bullshit world where actually we can make our ideas come true.
If you weren't in this industry, what do you think you'd be doing?
I'd probably be in jail.
What, in Australia or?
Yeah, well, probably in the Philippines or somewhere like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I sort of I also did a degree in semiotics while I've been working, you know, in my younger days, because I was always interested in, I thought I might become a semiotician. How exciting is that? So I like psychology, and I like sort of thinking about, you know, how people think. So I suppose if I wasn't in this game, I'd be maybe getting paid to listen to people tell me their problems, or sort of trying to analyse some mad signs out there. If
you could work in any agency in the world right now, who would it be and why?
Jam, of course. No, I don't know. I mean, I think there's some great agencies. What I really like, I mean, I've just been to Cannes this last week, and I think the work coming out of Brazil is really good. And I really like the fact that markets like Brazil haven't had to grow up with the traditional sort of social class of, you know, above the line, below the line, whatever the line. You know, fuck the line. I think everything's basically blurring, and I like the fact that the Brazilian agencies just go at things in a totally unique and new way, full of passion. I really like Brazilian agencies. I think if there's so many of them. The other guys I think are great are 72 Sunny. I think they're doing great. Again, I think it's that whole sort of attitude of like, oh, we're just going to try different things and experiment on things. So I don't know, it's a really hard question to answer.
What's been the best brand you've worked on so far? Is there one that stands out over the years?
I liked Rizla. I wrote the line for Rizla that's still being used 15 years or 12 years later, which it's what you make of it, that was good. I didn't necessarily like the advertising, but I liked the thought behind the line. I've enjoyed working on, I work with Microsoft now, they're good. Samsung, a good client that I enjoy working with. I suppose Mercedes with Jon von Matt has been a really great client to work with.
And when you say great and you enjoy working with them, do you mean that they like to take creative risks, and obviously that's your kind of aim as a creative, or what makes them a good client?
I think someone like Mercedes, what I like about them is that it's form and function working together. I think they respect craft, and they respect the fact of they're dealing with an item of value with a heritage going back, yonks, and every time they're reinventing themselves. But they also have a connection to the past that's important to tell that story. So it's a real challenge there. So I think brands that like them that basically respect the industry you're in and treat the creative professionals you're working with as craftspeople is why I like working with brands.
What's your favourite ad campaign of all time?
Favourite ad campaign of all time? Bloody hell. Favourite ad campaign. My favourite ad campaign of all time isn't an ad. The thing, I suppose, I'm always thinking about what's going on now or in the future. I love the Red Bull jump. It's not an ad, but I guess it's like they ended up getting an hour-long slot on BBC, here and NBC and all these other channels around the world, an hour-long sort of piece of content created out the back of that. That's what I thought was amazing. So it's like, who wouldn't want an hour-long ad about their brand and their ethos and their values?
Cool, let's move on to a quick fire round.
Okay.
Can line or D&AD pencil?
I prefer the weather in Cannes, so Cannes line.
Very topical. Olympic gold medal or an Oscar?
Gold medal.
The brightest person you've worked with?
Brightest person I've worked with? I've worked with some bright people. I don't know, I wouldn't want to signal out anyone on... Bill Bristow, my first creative director, who was a brilliant guy from ex-New York, sort of madman type, and started an agency called BCM in Australia, which is one of the best agencies. Super bright. Using email before email was even popular.
The most creative person you've worked with?
Most creative person I've worked with, Greville Patterson, and John Fawcett, two really old school creative directors from Australia.
And the best looking person you've worked with?
I did an ad with Elle McPherson. Does that qualify?
I'll take that. I'll take that. That must have been a really hard day's work.
Yeah, she turned up 10 hours late for the shoot.
Seriously, 10 hours?
Yeah. So it was meant to be a daytime shoot, and it ended up being the gaffers all rigged it up to be a daytime shoot
at night.
At night time.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Creatives or suits?
Creatives.
Apple or Android?
Apple fanboy.
Facebook or Twitter?
Twitter.
Spice Girls or Girls Aloud?
Good mix of bit of them together.
Ant or Deck?
Oh man, Ant, I suppose. Yeah.
Favourite flavour crisps?
Got to be steak or something manly.
Interesting. I knew you'd say that. Take That or Westlife?
Westlife, of course.
Degree or no degree?
The University of Life.
Art directors or copywriters?
Copywriter.
The Only Way is Essex or Made in Chelsea?
Anyway, is Essex, of course.
Retained work or pitch work?
Retained.
Web or mobile?
I think mobile, because everything's mobile.
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
Network agencies that act like independents.
Okay, safe answer. Outsourced production or on-site production?
Outsourced.
Don Draper or Roger Sterling?
I do like Don Draper. I shouldn't, but I do. Yeah.
And lastly, twist or stick?
Twist.
Thank you very much.
No problem.